Thank you for joining the Galveston County Master Gardeners for today's educational seminar, Best Practices of Watering. Karolyn, over to you.
Thanks, Ginger. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for coming and not having to get out in the rain to do so. I'm happy to be here today and look forward to discussing water with you. But first, just like on TV and BP before pandemic at the movies, you never got to see your show until you had a commercial. And so we go now to a commercial break. I am really excited to tell you that we have a May Day sale coming up, and what's offered is just tremendous for first-time planters of these or to replace things that froze, that sadly froze. And it's time to plant hibiscus. And if you look, we have around 8 or 9 varieties that we're selling. The top one here is Fiesta, and that's what it looks like. It is just as jazzy as can be. Underneath it is a beautiful Joanne double hibiscus blooming orange. And that looks like a watercolor. When I picked that picture, I couldn't get over it. It is just absolutely beautiful. In fact, the hardest part was picking which hibiscus to put on this flyer because they're all, each one is prettier than the other. We're also offering a peace plant and the yellow mandevilla vine, which makes a beautiful potted plant also. These would be perfect Mother's Day gifts. Of course, we want to offer just the prettiest of plumeria. Now we're in DP, which is during pandemic, and not everyone's had a chance to go to Hawaii. So put a little bit of the tropics in your backyard with plumeria, and a vegetable that needs to be planted now by seed. Instead of putting a plant or putting the seeds or putting some like you see in the grocery store, I wanted to put a picture of the benefits you're going to have by having this in your backyard, and that's okra. And we don't have just one variety of okra. We have like 6. And if you follow us on Facebook, you'll be able to see and hear some of the different types. Or you can cut to the chase. Today, you can begin browsing this online sale. The address is here at store.galvestonmg.org. And you can't buy anything yet, but you will get very excited making your list. The store will open April 30th at noon and will close the next day, Saturday, May 1st at noon. I recommend you turn on your computer a little bit before noon on April 30th and you get on right away. But just to let you know, if it's in your shopping cart and you haven't paid for it yet, when you get out to checkout, someone else could have bought it and you no longer have that option. So putting it in your cart won't save it. So you really need to decide, grab it, and buy it. Anyway, it's going to be a great sale. Speaking of Master Gardeners, if you're not associated with all the information, it's like those insurance ads. We are with you all the time. You buy plants from wherever, you put them in the ground, you need help, we're there. We're there for the life of the plant. We have helplines, we have educational programs. If you go online, you can find us under Galveston County Master Gardeners. If you Google it, you can just click on, you don't have to remember the address. Very, very easy. There's information at the site. You can find out, you can read past news articles. You can see ongoing information on timely updates of what's going on. You can see pictures from events. There's publications. I know that some of you have come by here at the extension office and picked up information and brochures and flyers and things. You also can sit in the comfort of your own home and go online and get this information and read it and have it. So know that publications are there also, and they're for you. Our Facebook is current and it keeps up with presentations that are coming, pictures of things you need to know. It provides you with ongoing information in a very timely way. So if you go, of course, that would be under Galveston County Master Gardeners. We have a newsletter that really should be called a magazine. It's so beautiful. It comes out every 2 months, and each cover is just more spectacular than the other. I don't know how that happens, but it does. And it's filled with information written by master gardeners and pest control and plants that you might not know how to raise or that even exist, letting you know which insects are beneficials that you don't want to harm, reading about other master gardeners and how they came about to get involved in gardening, just all sorts of things. And if you're not a subscriber, I would recommend that you become one, and you can do it on the website and sign up. Okay, that ends the commercials. So now we're going to talk about best practices of watering. Wouldn't it be nice if plants could do what I just did? If they could take a water bottle, open it, and pour it on themselves, or dip from a trough where all you'd have to do would be leaving water out and let plants take it up. Unfortunately, they don't. The minute you buy plants or you put in a yard or you plant a tree, you've become the caretaker of that plant. And it's your responsibility to keep that plant hydrated, just like your own body, and to take care of it. It's depending on you for its life to continue in most cases. And especially even native plants in horrible droughts, they still depend on you. You are the caretaker. So you do want to be concerned about water and how exactly you're going to do it. Love the guy's hat. It's like today, going out and pulling weeds and doing stuff when they're so easy to pull and not get rained on. He has the right system. Water's everything to us. And to the state of Texas, we're really fortunate where we are that we rarely have water restrictions. But that's not the same in all of the state. And the whole state of Texas is concerned about conservation. Now, how to water plants? Well, it's really all about paying attention. Plants cannot pick up water bottles and drink, but they can communicate. This plant is not just asking for water, or telling you what's going on. It's screaming it. You don't want to let your plants get to this shape before you water them, but there are some plants that let you know with a wilt. It could be overwatered, it could be underwatered, but they do communicate. There's no hard or fast rules, obviously. Depends on the plant, the soil, the weather, of course, the time of year. You know how Galveston County is in July and August. That's when you spend more time outside. In fact, most people get tanned from just being outside watering than from going to the beach, because you are always having to water in the heat. Plants have to have water reach their root zone, and we know that, and it moves up through the stem. Leaves have thousands of microscopic openings called stomates, and so as it gets into the leaf, that's where you're going to get transpiration, where it's going to evaporate from these little openings from the leaves. And that's why you see wilt. When the plant hasn't had enough water absorbed from its roots, that evaporation doesn't occur, and the leaves look very wilted. So the total water requirement for any plant would be water lost from the plant that way, and the amount evaporated from the soil. And that's evapotranspiration. And it varies by, just like watering, it varies by the day length, by the temperature, by the cloud cover. Is it a windy day? Do we have, how much humidity is going on? Has the plant been mulched? How old is it? A young plant, an established plant, number of plants, type and size. So all plants need water. It's just depending on that plant, how much water they're going to actually need. Symptoms of too much watering and too little watering are really the same. If you're seeing this, inconsistent watering is not good for plants. To do too much and then too little, or just one of those consistently. And it shows up in dropping leaves, yellow leaves. You've been on vacation maybe, or sometimes you just forget that you planted a new plant and you just didn't water it. So I can't believe any of you out there would be accused of that, but it does happen. But they do communicate the same thing. So you know something's wrong, and you should know if you're overwatering or underwatering. Here's one of our master gardeners, Ira. He's holding 2 tomatoes that he had asked several people, what do you think is wrong with these? And they're showing their problem, and they're communicating with him, and he knew it's inconsistent watering. So that alone, you're still watering, but you're not really doing it in a pattern the plant needs, and you're going to get things like this. I mean, you might think, what insect did that? Or did those touch the ground? Those tomatoes are showing that there's a watering problem, and they're pointing their little fingers at the person watering. As plants grow, their needs will change, obviously, and young plants don't have an established root system, so they don't need as much moisture as mature plants do. The root system alone requires more. And the first time I gave this presentation, it was during the dog days of summer, and that's July and August. So it's always nice to have established plants before then, so you don't have the little ones requiring less moisture, but maybe more often because it's so dry. I kept the information just because it's interesting about dog days of summer. It goes all the way back to Roman times, and the rising of the dog star Sirius at the same time as the sun. Happens once a year, around mid-July to mid-August. They move back and forth each year. And in both Greek and Roman astrology, it connected the whole event with, which we do too, heat, drought, sudden thunderstorms, lethargy, that's us not wanting to go outside because it's just so hot. Then fever, mad dogs, and bad luck. I don't know about the last things, but if I were a dog and I was stuck outside, I think I'd be pretty mad too during that time. Okay, water lawns and gardens with good sense. We've always been told, and you've been told, water early or late, not so late that it's starting to get dark, but just not in the midday sun. If you're an early bird and you can water in the morning, that's great. It gives time for leaves to dry, but the best time to water when temperatures and wind speeds are lower, because watering in the wind, especially if you're hand watering or you have sprinklers going or there's water in the air where the wind can move it around, sometimes you're not getting the water where you think it's going. But it helps to reduce mass evaporation, which is the heated part of the day. So the angry sun faces, that's Texas in July and August around here. You want water to go where it should, and not in the street and not down the storm drains. They don't need you to water it. The street is the street. It doesn't require looking beautiful. This is happening at a new neighbor that moved in kind of catty corner across the street. And they had already gotten in, moved into the house, and they tried out the irrigation system that was already established there. It was shocking to see. It was just hilarious. And so, of course, I hurry out. I'm taking these pictures with my phone. I just can't believe it. And about the third or fourth picture, I realized, I haven't really met these neighbors yet. I hope they're not looking out their window thinking, what is that woman doing? But it was just such a good example because you hear this happening. I've never had anyone around me do it. And anyway, we've noticed they've quit using the system. And so I'm not sure they know how to fix it. So that's when you send your husband over to help. So he's promised he's going to go help them. They still have this problem. You want to strive for deep, infrequent application. Look how beautiful and lush these yards are. They're just gorgeous. Deeply soaking soil, allowing it to dry between watering. That's what's going to take to make really good root systems. And that's what you want. It avoids overwatering, which could weaken, of course, or kill plants. And it also keeps you from being outside all the time doing this weak spray, hoping it goes down to the roots. Just do a deep application. And as it gets warm and stuff, twice a week, you should have, if you put these plants in your yard, you should have a yard that looks like this. This was interesting. just to see, to realize, and these are vegetables, what vegetables want you to know in case you're planting them. This is a 10-week-old spinach plant on the left and nearly mature pepper plant on the right. The pepper plant's already hit 4 feet of roots. And so a little bit of water on your vegetables doesn't do. Neither does if you're planting in only 6 inches of soil. If you have deep rooted vegetables that need some, I guess they need some length to grow, but they need water. And as they mature, you don't water more and more and more. You water deeper and less frequent so that your roots will grow really strong and reach all the way down like they're supposed to give you the product that you're expecting when you harvest your vegetables. Easy to remember and will again save you time and keep a nice yard going. Just water your yard 1 or 2 applications per week. Weather has to be your guide. It rains like today, but you don't need to be watering every day, especially if you're controlling the water. If you have a system, same thing goes. Don't set it for watering a little every day, thinking, well, that'll be nice. No, 1 to 2 applications per week, and you're good to go with your yard. Hanging baskets. I love hanging baskets. This is the time of year I love to buy them. But my husband, when we go to nurseries, he's saying, eyes on the ground. Look at the plants down below. Don't look up. Don't look up, because I want to buy them. And they are heavy maintenance. They need watering quite a bit, especially as we near these summer months. And you see these guys, there's easy ways to water, to reach up and water. That's not the hard part. The hard part is constantly giving them enough water. And when it gets to be July and August, sometimes you water them twice a day. You have to water thoroughly. And a simple way is, once you water and the water's running through, if you'll feel the weight of the basket, all you'll need to do is then just put your hand up to basket. You don't stick your finger in the soil or try to determine if it's too dry, it needs water. Feel how light it's gotten, and you'll know. Now, if you can lift a basket with one finger like this woman's doing, it's time to water that plant. They shouldn't get so light that they become just so easy that one finger will do it. But when you pick up, it feels very light again, time to water. Over time, you get to know how heavy it feels. But the key to hanging baskets, of course, is water slowly. And that's hard when you have a lot of hanging baskets. But just sending water spraying a distance is not going to necessarily get to the root ball. And slower watering, if you water too quickly, and you think, well, water's coming out of the bottom, everything's okay, but water's also coming over the sides, and you're getting runoff, you're not getting as much water as you really need to. Slower watering is more effective for hanging baskets. But you want all the soil to be moist, and the water will run out the bottom. If you have a few people in container plants, set them in containers that don't have drainage, but the pot has drainage, and they might put a few rocks in there. You've got to have drainage and not let them sit in water, or your hanging baskets will not do well either. But luckily, hanging baskets do like humidity. We live in a perfect spot for them, and they're so pretty. And I always look up when I go to nurseries and always get in trouble because they're just gorgeous. They add color high, and you can add color low and have just a beautiful patio. Placing rocks or mulch in a pot will help retain moisture. I know some people have moss hanging from trees, and they wrap their pots with moss around the bottom. Anything that holds moisture in would help that container plant. Container plants are really captive audiences. They really depend on you for watering. You can't forget about them or just kind of water them lightly. You have to think about it. So I like the look of the rocks on the grasses there in pots. It's a pretty look. It also, and mulch too, will keep weeds. Weeds come because you're offering a desired habitat for them. If you have great soil and space between plants, a weed's going to let you know you've done a good job. So you should be complimented when you see weeds, because you've really done a good job putting the right elements together. But if that weed is not a native plant yet and you want to pull it, mulch and rocks will help keep them at bay. Efficient use of water in the garden and landscape. You want to be efficient. Water is an important resource, and we don't want to constantly just use it with no thought to what we're doing. Now, water quality, it is so nice when pets want to help you and want to help you in all your areas of life. The plant here obviously has not appreciated it, and neither should the owner. Let your pets mop the floor and do things that fur can help do, pick up things, dust and stuff, but they don't need to water. So if you have that problem, sometimes rocks, or you can keep them out with a boundary type of spray that won't hurt the plant. But water quality and storm water. This picture is Texas City near the Nestler Center. And there has been a hurricane. And you can see all the storm water, and you're thinking, wow, I won't have to water the yard for a while. But that water is filled with so much pesticide and fecal remains from pets and asphalt and oil spills from parking lots. And so the water quality is really, really poor. Sadly, this picture popped up when I was looking for pictures of rain gardens that I liked. Now, how cruel is that? That this was put in as a rain garden. This is no rain garden, and it's not a pleasant picture for many to see. But storm water, the quality of it's not good. You needn't go berserk and want to share water and be buying gallons of distilled water or special water for plants necessarily. But that's just kind of cute, or taking them in the tub with you. Water quality is important. Watering techniques. I love that. The other day, someone sent me on Facebook, have you done these 20 things? How many things did you do? And it was putting a clothes clip on with a baseball card on your bicycle, and doing this, doing that, and drinking from the garden hose. I think everyone who responded had always been drinking from the garden hose. My parents always kept new hoses, and the water was horrible. And we considered just the boys in our neighborhood from drinking from the hose. But it's funny that how many people did it. What a nice memory. Watering techniques. Mulching is put here because it is a technique for holding water in, and everybody does know how to mulch. Again, use mulch, non-dyed mulch. Do your research. Be hesitant when looking at it if too much has been added, because here again, talking water, when your yard gets watered with, and maybe even flooded, mulch is going with special things added to mulch. It will go into the runoff water too, but it is a form of watering techniques. We have using sprinkler systems or sprinkling. We have an automatic irrigation system, flood irrigation, furrow irrigation, and drip irrigation. See all the water. These are good examples of, you want to do this on a non-windy day. Look how the wind would take that and go with it. To conserve more water, cover drip lines and areas around plants with mulch. Okay, here's the mulching thing. Dry grass clippings, straw, hay, compost. It doesn't always have to be bark mulch. There's other things you can use as mulch, but they do conserve moisture, and it does control weeds to a degree. I have always had amazingly strong weeds that pop out from that mulch and don't think a thing about it. They're happy to be there. It's days like today after this presentation, it's a perfect time because it's damp enough to get weeds out. They pull very easily. Sprinkling, above the ground, portable irrigation. It is the most popular and most common because if you buy the systems, the above ground sprinklers, and you can move them around. It's really good if you have a small yard. You might be leasing a house and not have access to putting in a system, and so you're using sprinklers. It's great for sloping as well as level areas. Different amounts of water can be applied. It is affordable. Most sprinkling systems do not last forever, but again, it's not such a huge expense to get new and all sorts of ones. It is uneven distribution in the wind, sometimes wasted water. If you're trying to cover a square area and you're using a circular watering system to do it, again, but you should water. If you water early in the day, it allows for the surface and the leaves and the on plants and the area to dry before nightfall. We did sprinkling for a while. We have almost an acre, and our backyard's really large. And everything's fine when you're doing it. My husband's an engineer, so you can only imagine the different divisions in our backyard and front yard and which station would run at what time. The hardest part was going on vacation, again, BP, before pandemic, when you could go off for 2 weeks, because we would always get people to come and feed our dog and our cat and take care of our pets. It never failed. They always came the day before vacation, before we were leaving, always the day before, to kind of find out how to feed the pets. Then while they were there, we said, do you mind watering? Because we have hanging baskets and we have, our sod looks so well. And we have all these trees. We had 31 trees in our backyard. And do you mind watering? And they say no. That's when he would pull out a color-coded diagram of every station and 20 minutes here and there. You almost would have to bring a book and do this for 2 weeks. And he was so proud of it. This is what he did. Surely they'll do it too. 2 weeks later, we come home and you know what we're going to find. The hanging baskets were all very wet, but it did show us inconsistent watering, but we didn't say anything. The yard was okay, lost a few things, but that's okay because mainly our pets were still alive, and that has to take top priority. But sprinkling, if you have a sprinkling system, you can only get a friend to do it one time to help you if you have a large yard. So the last time we had a guy do it, who's a good friend and still a friend, we're happy to report, we promised we would get a watering system if he'd just do it one more time. Now, this is not to say that sprinkler systems are not bad. This is really the modern trend for sprinkler systems. You can buy sprinklers to make your own backyard splash pad. And if you put sprinkler in Google, you don't always find sprinkler systems for your yard. You really find fun things that you can put in. So I'm saying a positive thing about sprinklers, you can really get cute ones for the kids to play in. You'll have every kid in the neighborhood in your backyard. I love the watermelon. It comes out of all the sides and the top. Now, automatic irrigation system is what we went with. And it's when you read articles about it, if you read old articles and then you read newer articles, it's amazing how modern the systems have become. And because there's the moisture detectors and rain sensors, settings, it was not only did we have it installed, it took a complete, like a half a day lesson for my husband to learn how to use it because all the gadgets but this is a man that still has things on his smartphone he doesn't know how to do, but still it was an amazing concept of you can do this, you can do this, you can do this, and he has attempted to learn all of it. Ironically, today we're having our it's 4 years old, and this is the annual checkup. And he's waiting for a guy to dodge the rain and come in today. Because as your plants mature, you might need to change heads or move stuff around. Our main problem was one of the heads is real close to the driveway. And to avoid both cars being too close together, we have consistently run over that head quite a bit. And so that's being replaced. But it's so neat when you're trying to decide or determining the design, the types of heads there are, because there's bubblers for trees, and there's a drip type of heads, there's spiders that kind of creep around. You can still have the high oscillating things. You have all sorts of stuff depending on your yard. And we had someone come and help. You could study it, determine it on your own also, and see, but it's fun looking at people's designs. These designs also could be for drip irrigation, where you want the water to go, where the important things are. Now, after the 3-day freeze we've had, our diagram has changed a little bit, losing some trees and things like that. So that's being looked at today in between showers, we hope. flood irrigation is the oldest irrigation method in the world. It's still being used so many places, um, with extreme summer heat, uh, large farming, um, but but it's helpful if flood irrigation for large areas. If there's clay in the soil, you don't hear that very often for somebody to say you want clay, but you do because it helps. And I love it when it says it helps percolate the water slowly through. But of course, this can waste water. Runoff is really hard to avoid. If the water stays too much on plants, it can hurt their oxygen level. If you're growing things on vines or like tomatoes, where fruit is really low, if fruit gets wet from this kind of thing, you're going to have rot and it's not going to work best. But it does work best in certain situations. Um, Here's two pictures of flooding being done. One, the large one is in West Lago, in a citrus center. And if you notice under the trees, it has been flooded, and heavy clay soils, again, I love it, permit slow percolation of the water into the ground. It doesn't work as well on porous sandy soils because the water will soak in real fast. But this is working well for the Texas A&M Kingsville area. And above, it's a soybean crop that has been flooded. But you open a valve. A modern way to do it is from piping or at the head of the field, and the water through gravity moves over and covers and then waters that way. But again, it is like what I was saying, the sprinkling system, most popular, most used, maybe around here, but in the world, from a world perspective, flood irrigation is still used in many countries for large crops. Furrow education, similar, except that you've got furrows that you're running it down. And if you do this in your own garden, if you do have a large yard or property where you can put plants and create furrows for planting, then this works very well. Vegetable gardens, again, requires soil with clay. Isn't it nice that we can say we have that in North County? Leaves and fruit of erect plants stay dry, and you don't get salt crusting or other mineral crusting on the soil surface of the plant that you have, because it's seeping in below it and it's getting the roots, but it's not the soil directly under the plant. You only need a hoe or a shovel and a length of hose. But if you're doing this on your own, it is time consuming because you're having to go and do every furrow. You can't just send water out like flood irrigation does. You can't use it again for mature fruits that rest on the soil. And again, salt can accumulate. It is time consuming and it wastes water at the end of rows. Here is corn, and I believe those are soybeans also. It shows how an industrial way or big farming, a large agricultural endeavor, you see the pipe and the streams of water coming out are going directly into that furrow. So one person is not going to all these furrows and putting them slowly in, but it works well for certain crops and for large areas. Drip or trickle irrigation. This is something that's been around. I think Germans and Italians brought it about in the 30s, and it was in the 40s that Texas A&M was doing experiments with drip to see best practices for doing it. And with the invention of the UV resistant plastic piping, when that came about, because it started off earlier with some using concrete and stuff, but when the plastic piping that was UV resistant came about, it really opened it up for residential use. And it's a very popular way to irrigate, used for vegetables, ornamental, fruit trees, shrubs, vines, container grown. You can put it in pots. You see above ground around the tree that's there. When a system is put into place, you usually have the piping will be under the ground, maybe 8 to 10 inches. Soil moisture is relatively constant. Great for oxygen levels, for having certain amounts of water go into the soil, saves water and increases vegetable yield and quality. Now, as far as saving water, if you really think about it, yes, furrow and the flooding does have some water waste to it, but talk about your own yard and thinking about it. Plants deserve a certain amount of water. Now, they will need a certain amount, whether any way you can give it to them. So, but you're providing it in such a way that's very beneficial and slow dripping and very popular. The Discovery Garden here has drip irrigation. The initial cost is high. Anytime you get an automatic system in, or a system placed in that has parts, breakable parts or whatever, or things that can get clogged, yes, it's expensive when you first put this in, especially if you have someone come and do it. But you're looking at long term and what you're getting, the benefits from it. A lifetime of the tubes used in drip irrigation can be shortened by the sun and just by the lifetime of the tube, whatever it's considered. And clogging, you can filter, but clogging still happens. But like anything, it needs maintenance. It will need maintenance over time, but it's a great system. Look at this here. You see it in the pots right there, in the container pots with drip, and then here's rows being laid out. Um, the requirements are the same for the amount of water, but the precise application of water and minimal runoff is what's very popular. Drip irrigation consists of a water source like a well or city water, filter, delivery lines, and emitters. And the life of the lines and the emitters can be lengthened with filtration to keep them from clogging and causing problems. There's many drip irrigation systems on the market. All are basically good. I don't know. I mean, you might have a neighbor that has, our next door neighbor put it in, and it slowly, he put it in slowly. We watched him do it. He studied it very, very hard and did a really good job. The size and the shape of the bed will dictate the system that you need. You start at the drip line of the trees, but then think about it. After 5 years, 4 years, 5 years, the drip line is no longer there. So, you will have some evolution on it for needing different things and having it checked. But if you want it, you really want drip irrigation, and you have a do-it-yourselfer at your house, or someone who likes to study, and like my next door neighbor did, he really studied it hard. Some people are just, I'm going to study it, and they go buy their stuff. Other people have to kind of be urged. So I have a plan that works at my house. It might work at yours. What you do, you don't give them a kit that shows 4 million parts unless you have someone that loves that. But if you don't want to scare them, what you want to do is delight them when it's gift giving time. Christmas, birthday, you give them a book on how to do drip irrigation. And you say, do you think this would work? Kind of challenging the reader in your house or the friend who might want to do it for you, to think of it as, will this work? And have a mystery to have it to consider and solve. And then it'll do one of two things. It'll make them excited and they'll do it for you, or the person will not have a problem at all getting someone to come and put it in professionally. So hit or miss, you still win. It's a win-win for you. There's a jillion books on how to do drip irrigation. And of course, just like there's a magazine for every single thing anyone's ever interested in, there's also the one thing you could always find in any topic. And that's one of the for dummies. You even have it for drip irrigation. But anyway, and don't give that if it's insulting to the other person. It would be the thing I would want to see if it's easy enough to do. But there's lots and lots of books and online stuff that you can do if you want to start now, getting the person you want to do it interested in having drip irrigation. Texas has had years of drought. Remember when Lake Travis was so low for so long, and Conservation is a big thing in the state, whether it's a rainy year or a very dry year. It's an essential part of the state water plan, and all Texans are encouraged to cut back on water use. So let's look on how we can do that. Let's test your water IQ. Just for fun. Guess, how much water does brushing your teeth for 2 minutes with the water running use? Would it be A, half gallon, B, 1 gallon, C, 2 gallons, or D, 4 gallons? If you said D, 4 gallons, you would be correct. Brushing your teeth uses 4 gallons of water. It's recommended that you turn the water off while brushing your teeth, turning it on to rinse the brush, but to not leave it just running consistently. How many people got that right? Show of hands. Great. And you knew it was a lot because that water is running, running, running. Okay. How much water does a 10-minute shower use? Does it use A, 5 gallons, B, 10 gallons, C, 15 gallons, or D, 22 gallons? If you said D, 22 gallons, you would be correct. 10-minute showers use 22 gallons of water. Start taking shorter showers. The hard part about this question is, for us, the shower, the most wonderful shower we have, is in the farthest spot from our hot water heater. And I always think, look at how much water is being used. And I didn't really realize how much it was to get to the hot water until the freeze in February, where we were concerned maybe our water would turn off. So we brought a large Rubbermaid trash can that we use for other stuff, and not trash, and put it in the shower to collect water in case our water would go out. So when anyone would take a shower, they would put this under where the water was flowing till the water got hot. That was an eye opener on how much water is being used. How much water on average does washing 1 load of laundry use? Does it use A, 2 to 8 gallons, B, 10 to 15 gallons, C, 20 to 25 gallons, or D, 27 to 41 gallons? If you said D, 27 to 41, you would be correct. Always wash a full load. Well, luckily, depending on how young your equipment is, your washing machine, Energy Star appliances, if it has an Energy Star, now you're seeing smart washers who can determine the amount of clothing, level it, and determine how much water it's going to use. And I was amazed, and when we got a new washing machine, that you don't have water to the top anymore unless you're doing a full load. So appliances are helping with this kind of conservation also. Now, how much water on average does a dishwasher use? And this is the automatic dishwasher and not the person. Who knows how much the person uses for all those dishes. But for the machine, A, 1 gallon, B, 2 gallons, C, 4 gallons, or D, 6 gallons. If you said D, 6 gallons, you would be correct. So even though you just have a small amount of dishes, you're going out to eat tonight, you just want to run them real fast, it still uses quite a bit of water, and you're encouraged to always wash a full load for conservation purposes. Okay, how much water can a leaky toilet waste in a day? Is it A, up to 60 gallons, B, up to 100 gallons, C, up to 200 gallons, or D, up to 300 gallons? If you said D, you would not be correct. All of a sudden, all the answers were becoming D. So this one, the answer is C, up to 200 gallons. You don't want a running toilet. You need to get that repaired. You're really wasting water when you do it. What uses more water, a bath or a shower? A, bath, B, shower, or C, both use the same amount of water? The answer is A. a full bath, especially in those wonderful new soaker tubs, so fabulous, it can use around 70 gallons of water, while a 5-minute shower can use 10 plus gallons. And we already know the 10-minute shower uses around 22 gallons. So a bath is a luxury. It does use a lot of water. So that's why showers for conserving water are the better for water saving. Now, hopefully everybody made 100 and you now feel, and if you didn't, you have a little bit more education on, wow, how much water you're using just living in your home. Now, water reuse has become very, very popular, and the Texas state water commitments have gone to seeing water reuse coming. And I know Friendswood, I know Leaky City, probably all of our cities in the county are starting to do this. We have a very proactive, I think, group of cities in that. Now, when we think recyclable, we think aluminum, glass bottles, cardboard, whatever, newspapers, paper, but water is also recyclable. And that's a plus in helping conservation. It's taking treated wastewater and using it for agricultural, landscape irrigation, industrial processes, toilet flushing, replenishing groundwater. It's being treated, but not treated all the way to drinking water standards. So it's more affordable to do. And so it offers financial savings as well as resource savings. Wastewater can be tailored to meet quality requirements of a planned reuse. And that's what cities are doing. Landscape irrigation requires less treatment, of course, than drinking water. You see these, I see these around town watering medians. These are the non-potable water. It's non-drinking water. It's, it should say, don't drink from this truck. It's extremely attractive from a management strategy, especially when shortages in water are projected. And cities are doing a good thing when they start doing this. There's a Texas State Water Plan project, 2007. They came out with a plan, and that in the next 50 years, which led up to 2060, the amount of water reclaiming and reuse is going up a tremendous amount, and that in the future, cities will require that commercial and residential development use treated wastewater for irrigation of common areas, medians, subdivision entrances, irrigate landscaping at city facilities. And that's what we've seen. And around Texas, you've seen this isn't anything really new, but the you're seeing the increase of using it where they can. There's two types of reclaimed water. Now, this is not, that wouldn't be drinking water, okay? There's type 1 and type 2. Type 1 is water that will it's likely to have human contact in some form. So it's treated a certain way and considered type 1. Now, if you're going to have landscape irrigation at individual homes, public golf courses, fire protection, toilet, urinal flushing, irrigation of pastures where you've got milking animals, goats, cows, you want water that if it's going to come into human hands, you want it treated enough where it's not going to cause a problem. Type 2 reclaimed water is the opposite, where humans and the water will unlikely meet. And so dust control, cooling tower applications, food, it is used for food crops, but it doesn't come in contact with the edible part of the crop. And maintenance of water, either impoundment water or natural water, where human contact is unlikely. And then you're going to see the use of type 2 water. Now, you may be thinking, well, gosh, is it safe? I'm going to start having this irrigated water, type 1 water on my landscaping. Is it safe for children to play on grass that's been irrigated by what we call recycled water? Well, yes, it shouldn't cause a problem. It says adverse health effects are rare. Can't say it's not ever going to happen. You don't know, but it hasn't, direct external contact with the water hasn't been causing a problem anywhere. They predict, water specialists predict that if you have large quantities of the water are ingested over an extended period of time, but I don't see how your children will be doing that with the irrigated water that's on your lawn if you're using type 1 water. So basically, yes, it is safe. Rainwater harvesting is something we can all do, and plants applaud you for doing it because rainwater is great for plants. You're efficiently using a natural resource. It kind of reduces, of course, the demand on your city's water supply. You're reducing flooding, erosion, and especially contamination of surface water through rainfall runoff if you're collecting it, because then the rainwater doesn't have a chance to get the sediments, the fertilizers, the pesticides, and get that in it and go down the storm drain. If you're collecting it, you're helping save and conserve water that way. And it saves you money by reducing your water bills if you're not doing watering, because water bills in our area in the end of the summer, you just learn to expect it. You have to balance water bill and keeping things green, and then you realize, well, I'll pay the bill. Well, maybe you can harvest some rainwater and help yourself in that way too with the bill. Rainwater is good for plants. It's free of salts, other minerals that harm root growth. As it goes into the soil, it forces salts down and away from root zones. It allows the roots to grow better, makes plants more drought tolerant. Doesn't your yard always look great after it's received rainwater? We'll look tomorrow morning and we'll see. Now, how it works. But before we go into how it works, this is a tremendously artistic and creative way of taking downspout water and getting it to the plants you want and not having it spill on air conditioning or whatever that unit is, that piece of equipment, except they haven't just made a way to do it. They've made, it looks like a copper slide. And how wonderful this view would be if gushing water is coming out of that downspout and you're seeing metal salmon swimming upstream from it. It's just a very creative, great thing. It's a shame it's in the back of a building. People don't get to see it, but I wanted you to see it. Rainwater harvesting system consists, of course, of supply, which would be rainfall, the demand, water needed for those plants that are in this picture, and moving it to the plants. So this is a simple system of getting rainwater to go where you want it to go. Complex systems can store the water for a longer period of time. Runoff, when I say runoff, I'm talking about rainwater that flows off a surface. If the surface is impermeable, like pavement, like concrete, parking lots, roofs, runoff occurs immediately and it seeks its way to somewhere where it can go down. And a lot of times that's storm drains and it goes directly to the waterways. If the surface is permeable, runoff will not occur until that surface is saturated. Then you might get some runoff. But let's talk about homes. If you're putting in a new patio, do you really need to pour more cement? You're making an area for runoff, and it will run off into your yard, but it's not going to soak into the cement. It's not a permeable system, but there are permeable surfaces that people are using in patios and having great success with. A lot of times they're beautiful pavers of sorts with space between them. And so the water flows in and goes down, and you can still enjoy the patio. It's not causing runoff, and it makes a very attractive one. And you're seeing a lot of permeable surfaces being done. It's a great way to do it. Now, the surface on the left, that really only looks good the first time you do it. And I'll tell you why. Now, if you look closely at that, they've put mulch in between. That's okay. But at the very bottom, you already see a little hello weed popping through. If anything, if you plant, some people plant things between it, it looks great while the plants are in good shape. But as they start not looking good, or if some of those little tiles get pushed down further than another, I don't know, that's a tremendous amount of work putting that down. But when it gets disappointing, someone's going to hear a lot of fussing about that. Where the pavers, I like the middle one, you see the space between it. And yes, you do see weeds. They do come in. Now, do not have that person that exists in neighborhoods that's like, I can get rid of those. And here they come with Roundup or another thing to spray. If your purpose is to absorb water and have it cleansed and cleaned and into the waterways to be a cleaner way to get there and a better way, then adding pesticides to it is not the way to do it. You just have to kind of control the weeds. These people on the far right have used rocks. They'll still get some weeds, but you can always put a few more rocks. But that's very symmetrical. You know, you have your symmetrical people, and then you have the one where it's the pattern just looks real pretty from the shapes and different sizes of the pavers. Your choice, but it does work well. Here's that lattice kind of look, and they've planted something. They need to, I just wish them well for all those stay perfectly done. But pavers need to have sub-basin designs that provide a space, of course, somewhere where water can pass through. And long-term, if they become clogged with sediment or debris, they're no longer functioning. Sometimes it's too many leaves have blown on there. I know we have leaf seasons with a lot of oaks and stuff. If leaves block it and water can't get through, that also defeats the purpose. So you've got to think of all that. Do your research before you decide what you want to put in. Here's a lovely new home, and you can see they've put in, there's not grout or anything between those. There's literally space for water to go in, and it's pretty tight. It's still a little tight, so with enough cars going over it, driving over it, maybe there will be weeds. But I love the use of rocks, a real pretty pattern. And the next one with the big river rocks and the pavers of different sizes put in. It's really lovely. Now, water harvesting through catch basins. If you have a downspout and you don't have, well, you have lots of water. You can have lots of water, a little water. It's not hard to put in a catch basin. You dig an opening that it sits in, and then you run a pipe out. It sounds a little bit like a French drain, except it's going right there and it's sending it where you want the water to go. And you can buy those and install them pretty simply. You put them where downspouts are, and they work very well. Look on the left. Very often when you see this, it's really sad. It's so preventable. If you have a downspout that is just pouring water out like this, notice the foundation is keeping everything wet. It's making soggy holes where it's falling off that little pavement area. If you have pavement that you can't get up, let's say, well, I've got concrete there, what am I supposed to do? Tear it up. You could extend the downspout over to a catch basin. On the right, they were fortunate enough they could put a catch basin next to their foundation, and they're sending that water out, and they've put mulch around it. There's plants around it in case there's wind or spills or anything to catch some of that water, but they don't have to have a soggy hole there. It's very, very handy. Catch basins are very handy. Speaking of French drains, I see a lot of new homes with French drains, but you don't have to have a new home to have one. They're very easy to put in. It is time consuming. It can be costly depending on how large a one you want, but it uses gravity. There's a slope. You're putting in an area where you're not putting plants, but putting rocks. Usually do about 3 feet from the foundation, and water spills into it. And there's a pipe underneath it that's perforated, or it has holes drilled in it that will take the water and take it exactly where you want it to end up. It's that you dig a trench and you put in gravel, and you can put in attractive rock on top, and the perforated pipe again redirects the water. Here's a slice of a French drain to look at it, and where the soil and the rock begins, there's been a fabric place, so you don't have, when you first put it in, where the pipe extends through the sod, you're not going to have it where it just sinks in to the rock down below, but you've got a fabric there holding it. And there's river rock, a perforated drain tile, and a trough that's been built and sends it through. Very effective. It's unlike a catch basin where it collects that water right there and takes it to one spot. This will do the entire length of the drain that you've built. Um, it runs, you will need a slope or an adequate fall in the construction, so it will naturally run downhill. What's nice is most homes in our area are being built up, like on like maybe 5 foot of soil, or it's up, so it's a down slope to help with flooding and things like that. So it helps with building French drains. It's been done that way. It's very simple. If you have a soggy lawn, look at the one on the left, and continual standing water. This might be the solution you need to collect and channel the water safely away. You're never going to get grass to grow in that area. Look at that. And it's a mush area all the time. So if you have to go back there and check that air conditioning unit, you have to wear boots to do it because it's always soggy. You don't want that. Look how attractive the French drain is on the right. Rain gardens. Now, this is a rain garden, unlike the Texas City picture we saw earlier. It's a low area. It allows runoff to collect and make a little pool from hard surfaces like roofs, driveways, walkways, parking lots. It's a wonderful thing. You can turn, look at this yard. When you go by, if you're walking by that, you'd think, ooh, such a swampy piece of property. Well, it doesn't have to be. You put in a rain garden, collect that water, look at all those beautiful plants. And normally they're native plants. So when it's not raining, they still produce for you. Here's some easy ones, easy to create for home. A beautiful solution for water pollution. That's how I've always heard rain gardens described. Different sizes and shapes. Look at the beautiful blooming flowers. It just looks like an attractive island blooming there when really it's removing runoff water. Your roof, if having asphalt or asbestos, whatever they put on roofs, whatever the shingles are, when things run off of shingles, you're still collecting some pollutants there. And if it runs through your yard, of course, it's picking up more. But you're going to remove those as it sinks in, lets the soil do its miracle magic, and clean that water while watering plants and making an attractive area. You put in pollinator plants, you're going to attract birds and butterflies. It requires very little watering, except for when you first establish it, of course. But look at this. A downspout is going, their water garden on the left is not with, they've got some plants planted down the way throughout. You can see some grasses more toward the street, but it just dumps straight into it. Here's a drawing that looks from a downspout. It's having the water come down. They've built something like this. It comes down, it goes into the plants. The gutter runoff will go down deep into the roots, and everything around it is not having the water stand. But a rain garden has some specifics if you're building it. They recommend 10 feet or more away from buildings to prevent foundations and basements. We don't really have to worry about that here, but it is a concern in certain parts of the country. You don't want them damaged by water. You don't want to be putting rain gardens right beside them. 35 feet or more from septic systems and 50 feet or more from drinking water wells, and well away from utility signs. And before you start doing something like this, there is a digger's hotline, and you can Google it. You can find out where your electrical, gas, or telephone lines are, so you don't get a surprise and don't have the person, if it's a honeydew project, you won't have that person quit because they've hit a line and they're done. So you can know ahead of time what's there. Now, to create this functioning rain garden, you need to put it in the right place where it's going to direct water. You size it so it handles the amount of storm water flowing into it. You're going to have to evaluate the soil. The water will could stay in 48 hours. And that's kind of what you want. Will it drain within 48 hours? 48 hours has been determined as the shortest time between two rain storms with heavy rain, which is interesting. And so if your clay's not allowing that, around here, you either have to dig your rain garden and then have big balls of clay you put in a separate area to get rid of, and you redo the soil, or you move the rain garden. So, and you want to select plants that are low maintenance, native to your region. and we have great access to that. You water, once you put, this is a beautiful rain garden. When you put it in, you're going to have to water daily for the first few weeks to establish your plants. And you're going to have to weed it on a regular basis because you're not going to want to add herbicides or you're not going to fertilize. So mulching will help. That would have to be repeated because you are going to get a lot of rain in here off and on. Salt destroys the soil biology and damages plants. And that's why, you know, you don't want to add a little fertilizer, a little pesticide to help because you're just adding salts that are going to harm. So you want harmful products out of your rain garden so it won't defeat the purpose. Here's one where the storm water runoff from the roof is coming down into a ponding area. And you can the water's taken to the waterways and it gets cleansed. To do a soil test, you dig a hole 10 inches deep and fill it with water. If the water disappears within 48 hours, bingo, you found a good spot. If it fails, you might have to move it or you might have to do some clay removal. That's always fun. The size it's determined, you know, by what shape works best. If it's between two buildings, it's probably going to be a narrow, long and straight rain garden, but crescent, circle, kidney shapes. They usually range 100 to 300 square feet. I love this. Here's a good thing to note. These rain gardens will handle runoff from about 3 times their size. So that helps you kind of figure it out. And if you have to have too large of one, you might want to put in several and not just one. But for larger surfaces, you want to put it near the rain spout. Here's some people who are actually putting in a rain garden. You see them busy. They put boards across so they can walk safely across it because it's probably a little mushy already. And you see then a rain garden where you can see an umbrella in the background on the right. So it is raining right now. Look how full it is. And the rock areas are leading from 2 areas where the water is draining into that rain garden. Gutters and downspouts, of course, assist in directing the water where you need to go. Here's a wonderful statistic. The average home rain garden naturally filters 30,000 gallons of water per year. And you know, if you're one of those bathtub luxury take a bath people, that would fill a bathtub 600 times. So that's an amazing amount, and they can really be pretty. The upper right is a new rain garden because the plants are just getting established, but how effective that is. And you can see where the downspout is, where it's coming, where the water's coming from. Very creative, very easy. This is just a one-page look at rain gardens in general, but it's a good picture to show. This is an industrial building. Normally it has a downspout that runs the side of the building, like this one on the left. The water flows down. It's coming from the roof with whatever's on the roof. It's picking up whatever's in the parking lot. And if you see there's a car that's been spilling oil and all sorts of stuff right beside it, the water's hitting that area and it's all going down the storm drain, which goes directly to the waterways. Where a rain garden put in, you've got rain garden soil. It's pulling all the thing in, it's cleaning the water, and clean water will get to the waterways through the use of a rain garden. And it's very attractive. And we're seeing these. Here's a green infrastructure rain garden rendering from New York. It shows it's downtown or it's near an industrial area. It's surrounded by cement and buildings, but they've put in a garden and it's allowing street water to come in and it's allowing the evaporation to go up. But it's also having from the building water coming down, and it's cleaning underneath. You can see where it's going, and it's going to the waterways, and it's got special soil and rock areas and things built underneath it as well as above it. It was planned. And there's an overflow area, and it looks like there's a storm drain, but you probably can't see it, but it says catch drain. So it's even got a catch drain built in, so it's directing overflow. The left side picture, this is a rain garden in the parking lot of the Fort Worth Botanical Gardens. And it's gathering up all things and cleaning up from the parking lot, which is a great way to do it. And then a Washington State University has a rain garden they were showcasing from their parking lot. Works very effectively. Here's some from down an industrial road. The medians are rain gardens, and the drain is not a storm drain, but a catch basin that's in there. On the right, it shows very easy building something. If your downspout has plants surrounding it, And you want the water to go into one spot, and the plants are taken care of. But it looks like a dry creek bed where there's no plants in it, but it's catching the water and having it disperse that way through that, because maybe the downspout is way too hefty water for the plants on each side. Underneath it shows how easy it is to build. Here's two dry creek beds. They're very attractive in landscaping. They don't have the plants in warm times. You will have, they will look dry and like a dry creek bed, as in their name, but they also absorb the water like a French drain would, but it goes directly there. The plants are planted on the side and still get the benefit from that area while it's holding rain. Of course, anybody that knows me know that I love rain chains. A rain chain can direct water without it splashing down hard. It can direct water to a location, and it also looks really, really pretty. And the hardest part, the most difficult part of rain chains is deciding which rain chain to buy. Although rain chains work best when attached to a gutter, we have an area in our house that doesn't have gutters. It's two eaves that meet. And this is called a leader head, a corner leader head that will direct the water. And either it could drop from a rain chain into a rain barrel, it could drop into a container, or it could just disperse maybe for the plants underneath it. So to maximize the function, you want to put the rain chain where the most water is. And if it pours off the water where two roofs join, that's a great location. They do help direct water to a rain barrel, to landscape beds, or other water features. Now, this is not the most efficient way to reuse water, but it's certainly a pretty way to use it and a pretty way to direct water. They can be very costly, but I got a rain chain at a local place. It was like $20, and it's little upside down umbrellas. But I love this. Look at the silverware. No one can say there's not a rain chain built that I would like. That's not true. There are rain chains for everyone. And if you look on the right, it is leading into a container. Now, what you need to do on that container is you've got to use that water up quickly if it's open because of mosquitoes. You have a king or a queen at your house, there's a rain chain for them too. You want to build rain chains, that little teapot. Isn't that just the cutest? Pine cones can be rain chains temporarily. You have to redo it, but wood from a trip, a vacation. Downspouts don't have to always have something built. You can put attractive things that carry the water down. So that's some downspout solutions. Also, downspouts look very attractive with just rock buildup. And the water looks beautiful coming down it, and you notice there's rocks underneath. So they have devised a way to get the water where they want it to go. There's even downspout covers that are fabulous. There's one with a kitten looking down into a frog in the a frog in the middle of a log. Here's a gargoyle and a little gnome. Something for everyone. Be aware of xeriscapes. You might hear that. It's when you plant for low water maintenance. Now, many homeowners associations won't let you be really severe in how you do it. And around here, you don't see as many, but when you get in certain parts of Texas where water is restricted, it's really a good thing. It conserves water, lowers utility bills, requires less maintenance, but not all plants, of course, work in this environment. Not all HOAs will allow it, but we see it more industrial and in like this place with some buildings. Those are all plants that do not have heavy water requirements. Look at this pool. This was done with all native plants and plants with low water demands, even though they were by a pool, to make the maintenance easier. But they're not a xeriscape. The house on the right is a xeriscape where they don't really have to water anything. You expect a tumbleweed to be rolling through that yard any minute. And here's some that I don't call these typical, especially Galveston County homes, but this gives you a xeriscape kind of look when you're not going to water because there's nothing to water and you don't have grass, and like we do. We see more of this kind of look, a lot of grasses, native grasses, the purple fountain grass, and muley, wonderful things to plant. And they're so friendly. You walk by and they wave. Really nice. Rain barrels. Love this. Be your own rain barrel. Rain barrels are wonderful. Look at this. The downspout falls directly. It looks like a large Dixie cup, but falls directly into the rain barrel. and to harvest rainwater, and then you can use it in your yard. It's just a great thing. It's old fashioned, yet it's considered innovative, because when you see these rain barrels, this isn't just your average rain barrel anymore. They can be really gorgeous, but they are non-potable. And you're supposed to even put a little sticker on it to let people know, don't drink. Don't invite friends over. They're going to lie on the ground and put their mouth to the drain of a rain barrel. They can't drink it. Don't let them do it. But put a sign if you need to. Practical uses, great for plants, great for drip irrigation, great for pet baths, bird baths, water features. And I love these new ones that there's a plant on top and the downspouts going directly into it. Look how lovely that is. Very creative. It captures the rainwater. It reduces runoff, reduces erosion. Rainwater, naturally soft, pH of about 6, contains no chemicals. Your plants go, we want more. How much water? When you calculate it, 1 inch of rain falls on a 1 square foot like roof area. It yields about 0.6 gallons of water. So 1,000 square foot roof would yield 600 gallons of water from only 1 inch of rain. There's a Galveston County master gardener who lives in a historic bungalow in Galveston, and she has a window unit for an air conditioner, and she has a rain barrel for for rain and everything. But she noticed her unit was dripping water so much, condensation from it. She put a rain barrel underneath it and has enough every day. Around here we maybe have 3 to 5 days of winter, and then the air conditioning's on the rest of the time. Well, she has that thing going, and she gets enough water to water her plants on a daily basis. And look at that. That's from the humidity, from the air. So that's pure water too. What an ingenious way to use a rain barrel. Now, how do you get a rain barrel? Rain barrels, soft drink places sometimes offer rain barrels. Food establishments, they get it in food grade plastic. My rain barrel that I have, it was a Lyondell Basel, donated a bunch of safe chemicals that have been stored in it, could be cleaned out. And the Galveston Bay Foundation was able to give out those rain barrels, and they already had the sign on it, non-potable and things, but they were giving those out. They're easy to find. In fact, the picture here shows the white ones. They're still a little bit transparent. You're going to have to paint them, but that's the kind of thing I got. But you go to a rain barrel, and let's say we'll have to do this AP, that's after pandemic, when the build a rain barrel courses start up again. Because when I did one with the Galveston Bay Foundation, I had to watch a video. That is just not as much fun as doing the real thing. And then we had to do a drive-by pickup for it. But it was a 20 to 50 gallon barrel. You've got to keep the light out. So if you can get a blue or dark one, that's really great. You have to clean it out and spray it and let it dry. You can use vinegar and water, a tablespoon of bleach per gallon of water, that kind of thing. They're easy to clean out. You have to sand it if you want to paint it. And they recommend, Galveston Bay Foundation and other people that do it recommend you use different grits to really get it so the paint will adhere and you won't have a peeling paint rain barrel, which is a no-no. And then you can really have fun. You put a primer on it, and then you make sure that that primer is for plastic, not just where it says wood, metal, and more. No, you want one that is specifically for plastic. And then you can use acrylics and then a protective coating, and you get things that look like this. Look at these rain barrels. So creative. Now you're either the creative, I want mine to look arty, or you're the type that you might want one that looks industrial. And you've got to select a spot, and you've got to raise the rain barrel. For one thing, you want to put a watering can under it if you want to water by a watering can or connect a hose, but you're also helping for the water pressure to get it down there. And it's got to have a base, and the base has got to be sturdy. You want it near a downspout. Look at these bases. 50 gallons of water weighs about 400 pounds. So you don't want the thing falling over you. Sometimes you'll be out driving and you'll see in different large areas of land self-made roofs with rain barrels collecting water for wildlife. And you can do this, and you can get internal floats that will manage the bowl, not have it constantly overflowing. That's kind of interesting. When you see it, you'll know what it is. You just need to be sure you're not putting your rain barrel in an area where it could cause, it could be blown over by heavy wind or rain and fall on someone. You want the lid to be secure, and you want it to be safe and not you walk out and there's your rain barrel on the ground. Um, they also make great bird bath containers now. It used to be where you could put a little drip emitter on the end of a tube from a rain barrel for your birds. Now there's water bowls that floats in them. But if you do something like this, again, you have an open barrel and you've got to be sure you use the water quickly. Sorry, birds, because you don't want mosquitoes to come. You must clean out your gutters if you're going to get water from your gutter to go in your rain barrel. You don't want decay in there. And basically, if you're building one, you're putting an inlet where the water's coming in. Notice there's a screen. You want the screen fine enough to be a mosquito prohibitor. And you have an overflow, and you have a faucet or hose bib that's connected. And that's basically what you do to make one. Here you see a design where they've added a drain hose for overflow, so you can take the hose and put it exactly where you want it to go. Here you have the downspout on the right, just going directly into it. Mosquito prevention. Sometimes mosquitoes, if they did get in, you're not using the water as quickly. You can place an old pair of pantyhose. Does anyone have an old pair of pantyhose? Landscaping cloth, go to the hardware store and you'll get netting. Besides, the netting looks a lot better than having guests come over and go, I have an old pair of pantyhose over there. That's kind of strange. But if you have to treat it, mosquito dunks, vegetable oil, and Dawn soap, the miracle of soaps. Dawn, seems like you see the brand mentioned, not just dish soap, but they even mentioned Dawn. Rain barrels do not have to be the type that you paint. I have one that hasn't been painted yet because my husband went over to a friend's and saw a pretty one like the one in the middle, and the guy got it at Costco for a very affordable price. And now he just looks at mine thinking, no, he is one of these types. The pretty type that already come opaque, that one has a wood cover over it. See how the hose is connected? Easy to do. I couldn't resist. It's interesting. Rain Barrel Depot online, $89. And there it is. Now, this is just the stand. Just the stand. You have to get the rain barrel on your own. Here's a rain barrel, a whiskey bourbon barrel, $399. Here's a deluxe rain barrel, $189. So they can be pricey. Here's the Galveston Bay Foundation. And again, AP, after pandemic, we hopefully will see rain barrel building be all around, and Master Gardeners can even offer that. It's a fun thing to do, especially when you get to do it. They loaded it. You didn't have to get out of your car. This is very interesting. If you live, hands of people who live in League City. How many people? If you live in League City, they have a rain barrel program for you. They provide a 50-gallon, look at it, mosquito-resistant locking childproof lid and an overflow hose attachment with the spout already on there. And they promote the use of rain barrels. In fact, you get like a $25 a year, up to 2 rain barrels, discount off your water bill. And they say this rain barrel is worth $129, and you can get it for $65, and you get rebates, and it's a wonderful program. It's on their city site. It's pretty amazing. You don't have to do anything to it. You just set it up and go. But for complete details on designing, building, maintaining, all of your questions about rain barrel harvesting systems, you go to the Texas A&M University website. You can get amazing information that you can use. Well, if one barrel is not enough, one is so nice, why not do 3? See, these are interlocking. So the overflow goes in the next barrel and the next barrel. And then the last barrel would have an overflow to send out. But I thought that was interesting. Look, these people are easily using their rain barrels. If they can do it, you can do it. Now, it's almost that time, AP, after pandemic, where we'll hit the skies, hit the seas, throw on our backpacks and vacation. You are not completely free to go off. You must think of your plants. It's recommended. Group your outdoor container plants closely in a shady location before you take your trip. Doesn't it sound wonderful to take trips again? Wow. Water timers can be inexpensive and you can use. You set up oscillating sprinklers, water your grounds before leaving. New mulch is kind of a good thing, especially if you're a summer traveler. Set timers, water and cut your lawn. Think about who you're taking care of, all your plants, all your landscaping needs before you leave and then come back and you want to see them, looking good. You want to make watering fun. Just a few quick little slides just to show how some people have made it fun. You have a party, no need to recycle those wine bottles right away. You can simply fill them with water, turn them upside down, and let your plants have a little party with fresh water. Again, water bottles can be the same. Cute little gifts for people that do herb gardens, want a little bitty containers of herbs. Look at this cute watering system. Cute. Kids can get in all the action of how plants pull in water and up the straws, through the little tongues. Cute ways to train your kids. I couldn't resist the one on the left. That's just so funny with a use of water, and it recycles, so you're not just dumping water on dirty dishes. But if you have a bonsai friend, what a cute thing to give them, a little watering can for their bonsai. Watering cans come in all shapes. I love the family that waters together but refuses to use one. They each have their own watering can. I love that shed with all the watering cans on it. Here are 3 cute ways for downspout water usage. One, it goes directly down and waters that entire plant. It's pointing, so you won't look at the kid, but look at the plant. The next one is an artist that said, oh, I can build something for downspouts. And look at that. The girl must have seen it before. She's not even looking at it as she walks by. That's amazing. And if you do have an area that's going to have the downspout and you want the water to rush, a dark cloud, how clever, how clever. Here's what I want to leave you with. Always remember, the grass is always greener where you water it, of course. Happy summer. Oh, but this is in your yard and you're conserving. So let's redo this slide. If you want to send your kids to sprinklers, parks have splash pads and so do dog parks. Let them go there while you conserve your own water. Thank you so much for being such a good audience. And I appreciate your being here. Were there any questions on chat that we need to address? Hearing none. Enjoy the last 2 pictures of a downspout, little bitty downspout rock creation, and see how fun it is. That little girl's probably using that piece of equipment possibly for the first time. We find that out in workshops that for me, first time I did it, I'd never used that, and she's getting to create her own. That's coming. So enjoy your time in the rain outside. Let it remind you of ways that you too, as a good Texan, can conserve water. Thank you.